Welcome to another episode of Gari-On Talks. This is your host, Dorette. Gari-On Talks is about inviting people of Garifuna origin to talk about the Garifuna culture and the language, with emphasis on the language to bring awareness towards the learning and the speaking of the Garifuna language. So today I'm happy to welcome our next guest. She is Luz Soliz Ramos. She is the author of two books that I know of: Learn Garifuna Now, which was published in 2017, uh, Garifuna Picture Dictionary. She's also a full-time faculty facilitator and adjunct professor at the Boricua College here in New York City. Um, she's also the founder of Garifuna Heritage Center for the Arts and Culture in the Bronx in New York City. She's a mother. She's a wife. I'm happy that she's here with us. Miss Luz, Sir May Lo Biabi Anuma Lo Wayanoha, you know, um, about our culture, Lirasa Garifuna, um, also our language, Lerero Garifuna. So welcome. Thanks for being here. I will pass it to you to talk a bit your about your background and your journey to where you are today. Mapwiga, welcome.
Thank you, Dorette. I really appreciate that you invite me here to tell a little bit of my story because we don't get this opportunity all the time to tell our own story. We are always telling other people's stories and somebody else's story or reading some books of somebody writing, and very little time spent on realizing and self-analyzing our own self and be able to share what we feel and who we truly are. Because most of the times, we are told that if we speak too much about ourselves, that means that we are self-centered. So we have a tendency as Garifuna, I would say professionals, that sometimes we don't look at ourselves. We are constantly helping others, constantly solving other people's situations, and we think of our own last. So I'm here also to invite our women and men who are constantly working hard to help others shine, to also look at themselves and see their own shine.
Yeah.
I appreciate the moment to talk about Garifuna language. I have been looking at some publication that was done over almost 400 years ago, 360. It was published in 1666, which is dictionary written by um, Raymond Breton, who was a priest from France that came to live among the people of Dominica, St. Vincent, and I would say, I think Suriname is the other island. He was in different islands,
Mhm.
learning the language of the people to produce a dictionary that will allow the Catholic Church understand our language.
Mhm.
So when I look at this book today, I admire and I thank Raymond Breton for having written this book. Although he spent very little time in the island of St. Vincent, the language in the book, it was the language that was spoken in the Antilles during that time in the 1600s. However, when I look at the book, especially late at night when I would say the ancestors get closer, I have, like all of a sudden, this language is so crystal clear, just like the way we have maintained it. The difference, what I notice, is that it might be a letter, so that if the Breton use a K, we'll use a G right now, almost like Kalinagu, we say Garinagu, right? So it's well preserved. And there's another publication they did during that time. There was a time where the French, the British, and the English would send people to do the research and look at the indigenous way of life. What did they plant? What do they eat? How is the land? So, of course, the realization was that once they learn how we live and what is our weakness, what is our strength, they can take this land away from us. We already know that part. Um, However, the way the people lived is practically how Garifuna live today. That we, for the most part, farmers and fishermen, and we use the ocean in a big way because the ocean is very dear to us. He said in Barawa, won't say we want to sing Barawa, and that's the way it was. They would go from one island to the other, and their king, Joseph Satuje, he was the one keeping harmony in the islands, and he was the chief for all these different islands, even though there will be a leader in each one, but he was the one keeping the harmony who fought for us for so many years. So this book has all of these, how people lived in the 1600s all the way to um, somewhere maybe in the middle of it. Um, and then at the end of the book, I don't have it in front. I don't know why I don't have it in front of me. Story of the Caribs in the islands, in the Caribbean island. I will send you the title of it. I
Okay.
don't have the book in front of me. I should have it. I'm in front of my desk and I organize it to bring my computer up, and I moved a lot of things. But this is the story of the Carib in the Caribbean islands in the
Mhm.
1600s. So at the end of the book, there's the information about the language, right? And the language is, oh my God, when you read this whole list of Nabulugu, Nigiri, Nagu, like the author is also speaking on the first language. I don't know why the base verb was not giving over the base noun, agu, igiri, yuma, like that. It's just saying my nose, my mouth, my.
Like how people would
There,
speak,
like,
you know.
right. But is there like the way I'm going to up my computer a little bit because I put some stuff to see if the book is here so I can show you. But no, Mama. Oh, yeah, I see it. I just gonna this one.
Wow. Look how huge that book is. Thick that book is. Wow.
So the
That's a
book
sounds
is
like a good resource.
History of Caribbean. They called our people
Mm-hmm.
islands, right?
Okay.
Caribbean islands. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really, the letters are very small. I got this in Amazon. This is a very ancient book that they put out of
Mm-hmm.
the ancient book, published in the 1600s, 1666. And it's showing how people lived. But the fascinating part is the area where the language is. If any one of you purchase it, it's written by Charles de Rochefort, Johns Davis, but it says the history of Caribbean islands. So I'm gonna put it closer here, maybe
Yeah.
snapshot of it and
Yeah.
be able
I
to
see.
get the
Thank you for sharing
all
that
right.
with us.
And it tells about the language, and it's so fascinating. And I even underlined some of the
Mm-hmm.
way in which we speak today. And then that's the way we are the only people that have preserved this language in the way that it was spoken in the Caribbean. No one else, because people were um, told, prohibited to speak, right? So we were exiled in 1797 to the island of Roatan, and from there the people went to Honduras, Guatemala, Belize. Honduras wasn't even Honduras yet because Honduras became Honduras in 1821, and Garifuna people were already there. So the fact that the people are constantly threatened to leave their land, it doesn't make any sense in Honduras because it's a constant um, battle working with the mestizo of Honduras, always threatening the Garifuna people to leave their land when Garifuna were already in Honduras way before Honduras became Honduras, right? Republic. So we keep on working with this language. Right now, there is a possibility that the language will be taught in all the school, elementary school, and everywhere. And hopefully that takes place, because that is why we have such a deficit in the young people speaking the language today, because it was not taught in the school. And then we don't
Mhm.
have a Garifuna Language University, which is needed. And
Mhm.
we are in the verge of forming it with a few colleagues, um, hopefully, everybody come together for this to exist. Um, Mr. Um, I keep thinking of Salvador Sosa, because there's a problem going on in Honduras right now where they are trying to um, pass a dictionary written by this Spanish person from
Hmm.
Spain, and then we have a dictionary written by Salvador Suazo that is complete. That is, I want to show you this. I don't know why I left the books back there. Should I have them in the front so I can show you? It's a book that was written by Salvador Suazo. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's completely in Garifuna. All right,
Lena Bergman.
leave
Mhm.
Garifun. All right, this you can't find in Amazon, because Salvador Suazo passed away about maybe 7 years ago. And this is a dictionary in complete Garifuna that exists for Garifuna people. And the government of Honduras, or the University of Honduras, is joining Spain to have a dictionary written by a person from Spain. And I hope that this is the
Hmm.
dictionary that's going to be used in the schools for our people. All right. Um, I myself, uh, I am originally from Trujillo, Honduras, Departamento de Colón. I was from Barrio Cristales, or Loba again. Now Loba is called San Martin. And we spoke only Garifuna in our community when we were children. What happened is that over time in the schools, they started to prohibit the children from speaking the language in school. So parents have to speak to them in Spanish so that they can speak the knowledge of Spanish, so they will pass the exams and be proficient in the Spanish, with the notion that if they speak Spanish well, they will get jobs, right?
Mm.
So there's a deficit now in
Mhm.
many community. As a matter of fact, I was in Honduras during August, and anybody who's 20 years old all the way down, if you ask them de bien, the answer is estoy bien, which means they understand the language, but they can't speak back. They
Mhm.
just say,
Mhm.
"Ya te no hago." Oh my
Mhm.
God,
Mhm.
so I had taken some books home to the teachers from the Learn Garifuna Now, which I wrote. And the reason why I wrote this book is because I found that my daughter also was not so fluent in speaking the Garifuna. She would do everything that I asked her. And then one day I asked her, why don't you answer me in Garifuna? That's when I
Mhm.
realized. So I put the
Mhm.
books together for youngsters. It's written in three languages, Garifuna, Spanish, and English. And then later on, I put this algorithm, picture dictionary for the youngest generation with the pictures, which I find fascinating. When I see my grandchildren, they're always looking for this book. I have to give them a new one now, because they kind of tore the other one off, because it's as if it was the only book that existed. So they enjoy this book, and I commend people. These two books are in Amazon. The Learn Garifuna Now, we also, my sister Martha and myself, who also always work with me. Martha always teaches the songs. Her picture is right here, second next to me. So
Oh,
we probably
okay.
have audio. So we created
Mhm.
CDs in audio, but there's also in MP3. If anyone would like it, they can go to Learn Garifuna Now and purchase the MP3 that goes with the book and study. So there are many ways to recapture the language. The beautiful things that we have is that there are still people that speak the language. So it's not totally lost. So even if you don't speak it as a young person, what I tell the youngsters is that don't hesitate, but don't relapse. Start learning it so that you will be able to also teach it to your children. One of the things that fascinates me now that I'm getting into the spiritual songs, I'm finding so much of the stories of our people in within the good songs, to the point where uh, sometimes you want to cry because you can hear in the song the sufferings that our people went through when they were struggling to keep their land in the island of St. Vincent. I
Mhm.
think that the Garifuna language is very beautiful. I think that it should be learned and I think it should be kept. We're not going to keep it if we don't speak it. We have to speak it consistently. We have to build the schools where the language exists and create more literature. My advice to colleagues, friends, family, write the books, especially stories for children in Garifuna. You know, Short stories, because Garifuna is not really so easy to read if you're not accustomed
Mhm.
to reading it.
Mhm.
So you write something, a story, put the picture and put the story, like whatever it is that was there in your life about your grandmother. Many grandmothers were healers. They knew about medicines, even naming those medicines in the book. Or the fathers who worked at the sea, fishing, bringing fish, sell the fish, save the fish. How our people saved salty the fish for the winter and the seeds. I have memories of working in Puerto Castilla, Punta Castilla, with my mom and my father. My father would give me my parcel of land so I can plant corn and I can plant the different things. We even planted rice in that area because it's the swamps. And so my
Mhm.
memory goes all the way back to early, early childhood, planting with my parents and harvesting, all of these things, and seeing my mom how she saved the seeds of corn and rice before the rainy season, which happens in from November. It starts right, November, December, January. And so it's Caribbean people have been they were wise in the knowledge of how to preserve and how to continue the legacy of Garifuna Duo and the beauty that existed within the community. Because I remember my mom, she would make Dani. Um, Dani is it's like a cassava pudding. They tilbati tiba hanu, she would cut it in parts. Beba ishi to tu mama balbina, beba ishi to tu bitalina, beba ishi to ebago. And then I was the one going to take these pieces of cassava pudding, Dani, called Dani, home iduhenyo, you know. Tiabi kasara ligememe, So I think the kasara is I think Dan is the boiled one and the kasara is the one that's put in the oven. But everything with the
Mhm.
cassava. Lubame Yabi Girigia, the people will come when she harvests the cassava, the four women will come or more, Luheleha, to peel the cassava with her. So that's how harmonious the community was. And then they will
Mhm.
grate the cassava to bake the cassava bread the next day.
Mhm.
So they will grate it, Lubame Hebron, they put it in the ruguma to extract the poisonous water out of it. Lubati Lari Dun, then they put it away but for the next morning. So early in the morning, these women are up to bake the cassava bread. I had all of that experience, so you can see how old I am. Because they don't really do it that much in the different communities. You have to work.
Mhm.
I think in Travesía they still make a cassava bread. Most be the La Union. I have a niece because my grandmother over there, they used to make a lot of cassava bread. My auntie, so one of the daughters still makes it. They have a cassava, la fábrica de cassava there, where the women will come, they make the cassava for the day, and they will go and sell the cassava to be able to take care of their children.
Mhm.
So the legacy of Garina is very beautiful. I would wish we can conserve it, but with the new generation and the new I'm not gonna blame the technology because we can use technology to expand our knowledge and our legacy. It's when people try to forget who they truly are that makes it dangerous.
I agree. I agree. So thanks so much for sharing that. Um, I'm glad that you were able to share. the books in particular because, it's not as I didn't know about them, and I don't know how many others knew about them. So, um, I'm grateful that you were able to share that with us, and I'm sure, some people will look into it and probably purchase one and find out more about our culture, our people, and from the perspective of these authors, no? So I'm glad you were able to share that with us, Sarah. So in terms of growing up Garifuna, what was that like for you back then, growing up Garifuna?
Well, like I said, what I experienced was the constantly of caring of people for each other. My mom had 9 kids back home. She had one last one here when she got here, and we were all born inside the house, and there was a comadrona that would come in, the midwife, to help her, and there were other people. And then when she's giving birth, what I noticed is that neighbors will take the clothes and go wash the clothes, take care of us, make sure we eat, and vice versa. It was done to around the neighborhood during that time. Growing up was very beautiful. We had enough space to run around. We had the beach. I always loved the ocean. I think every Garifuna loves the ocean because we lived along the oceans of Central America.
Mhm.
um, my father was a fisherman, and he will bring fish. There was a time when we lived between Trujillo and Puerto Castilla. Puerto Castilla, eventually, they took it away from the people. They built the naval base in that area, and also they moved the people that way to the area where they can't even plant. There aren't that many Garifuna people in Puerto Castilla, which was a Garifuna land. But I remember going to La Punta Castilla, where they have the naval base now, the army, with my parents to plant. And my parents have the coconut farm. The coconut farm was a big deal because my father would pick the coconuts, and my mom would break the coconuts and put it in the sun, and she would create these sacks and sacks of coconut to go sell it to a ship that came to buying coconut. That's a long, long time ago. And people would always have money because they all have farms of coconut or farms of cassava where they make the cassava bread to sell. And this was the way for them to generate income because there were no jobs from the government into the Garifuna community. There still is the same way today. Nothing really has changed. Some of
Mhm.
our people have become professionals so they can be nurses, teachers, and go somewhere to work. But like jobs coming into our Garifuna communities, it's still the same as before. Very, very difficult. If you are a woman in a Garifuna community in Honduras, I don't know how it is in Belize, you have to figure out how you're going to take care of your children if you didn't have food that morning. People might not like to hear this, but this is the way it is. So you have to, the strength of the Garifuna woman is that she is so creative. She's so strong that she will either sew to make money, she will bake bread, she will create a rifas, where she will buy something to then sell numbers so that she can, create the money, the lottery. She's always consistently the woman strengthening herself. Some men do help their women. I'm gonna give credit to the men that help their children in their growing, because I remember my father, he was a very responsible man, and like him there were many. And then when he came this way, my father worked in 7th Avenue in the coat factory. He was a coat cutter. And I remember my mom working in the factory when she came here. And I also remember myself, I came here at the age of 15, and I would go to the factory with my mom and my sister work. And so I came in here, they put me in junior high school very quickly. Right at 3 o'clock, I will run where the factory was, which was close to the school, and work an hour and a half every afternoon. So at the end of the week, I will have about accumulated $30, where my mom would take $15 and give me 15. Sometimes we will get paid. I think it was on a Thursday. So by the time I got to the work, my mother went to pick up my check already. But it's okay because
Mhm.
all of us, once we were able to work, we'll, yeah, we'll have part of the money. We have to also give money in the family, which customary, right? Helping your family. So in Trujillo, it was really beautiful. When I came here, we have family members that lived here already. So there was always this connecting with the family. It still is with us today. All those elders that existed here when we came to the United States, I came in 1972, they're all gone. But they left a legacy of keeping that unity among the family. I do that with my siblings. Once a year, we go to the Sunview State Park, and we'll meet there because it's more than 150 of us here that had
Oh,
that had were created out of these two people, my father and my mom and my aunts and my uncles. So we have to go to the park because nobody's living room is big enough for our meeting. So we do it once a year, and it's so wonderful to see all the children and everybody come together. Yes, it was always wonderful back home. It's really sad now how people are suffering for the community because Garifuna people saved and took care of their land all the time that they were there. They never polluted the land. They never mistreated the land. They always took care of it. And now people come in and try to um, take away certain areas where people have to go fishing. I know you cannot tell a Garifuna man he can't go fishing. That's the way he's able to take care of his family. And
the
he's now
livelihood.
going there with these big ships taking amount of fish. So nobody's going to tell me now that it's because it's a national park that the men can go for the day to fish and feed his family. And they're doing a lot of these things, or practically even in African countries where very, very poor people live, they're going to tell people they can't hunt and they can't go fishing. I understand when they're trying to preserve certain animals and saving certain animals. That I understand. People can be told, don't hunt these kind of animals so. But these are small communities. There's no way they're going to finish nature, right? So by oppressing them to tell them that they can't go fishing today, what are you telling the men when you don't even have jobs in those particular communities coming from the government? I don't know who's going to hear this, and I hope they hear it.
Mhm, mhm. It's unfortunate that that's the case. People need a way to survive, like
Right,
Later said.
right. I know you're not creating a revolution here. We're just talking about the language, but it goes with the.
It's about the Garifuna life, the Garifuna experience,
Yeah, it's
and
our
so many
experience.
factors impact us and our communities and the people
Right.
around us.
Yes. You know.
All
Mm.
right, so in terms of the language, I know you've published these two books that you've spoken about. Um, but in terms of passing down the language, I know you said you were inspired to do the Learn Garifuna from when you spoke to your daughter. She understands. However, she was unable to respond to you in Garifuna. So in terms and how is she now? How is she doing now, by the way, in terms of responding to you in Garifuna? And do you encourage, other kids or young people around you to speak the language,
Yeah. My sister and myself, we have made up our mind that when we talk to each other, we just speak in Garifuna, because I find that when the youngsters listen to the language, it stick to them more.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
what happened is that whenever we spoke Garifuna among ourselves in the past, it was mostly when the kids were not there. The kids are, so we kind of I feel that we missed the link there, and the going and coming, you're trying to figure out how you're going to do and how the children are going to speak the language. I spoke to my daughter in Spanish because we were traveling to Honduras and the kids there, they spoke Spanish. She was going to the bilingual daycare here. They spoke Spanish, and I wanted her to be able to verbalize, um, the language by the time she got to school. So in at 3, she spoke Spanish, and then quickly she spoke English because I needed her to be able to understand what's going on around her here in the United States. So that creates like a kind of a gap sometimes. Um, when I tried to implement the Garifuna, she was fluent in Spanish. She still isn't fluent in English. She is becoming more and more fluent in Garifuna, but it took a
Mm-hmm.
while. So it's something that I will say to parents. Yes, teach your kids the language of the area quickly as you can, because when you're teaching two languages, even my grandson spoke later because we were trying to implement two languages at the same time. You get them confused. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're going to send your children outside of your home for somebody else to take care of them, you want to make sure they're going to be able to tell you what happened. So that's what happened. Even though people say, Baruda Garifina Tum Frumi. Yes, but she's not going to be able to communicate because we are not in an all Garifuna community.
Mm-hmm.
So, so it's really mind-boggling, right? It's like, what do we do? You do want your children to learn Garifuna, but at the time when all her friends in school are not Garifuna, you want the child to be able to communicate. This is what happened to me. I don't know how the other people do it because I see some children that are born here and they're fluent in Garifuna. That's beautiful, but I don't know how frustrated they were as young kids.
Mm-hmm.
So, my daughter sings, calls out songs in Garifuna. She knows the culture of Garifuna. She understands it. She can teach it everything. So she's becoming more and more fluent in speaking the language. She still isn't that fluent, but she's working on it. It's amazing how she will know poetry and songs because I guess it's the memorization of it, and she's enthusiastic in teaching her children. She takes the book, she understands this book, and she takes the Learn Garifuna now to learn how to phrase. But what we have to do is meet more often so that she can speak more sentences, right? So it's not easy for people with children growing up in the United States when you're going to send your children to babysitters and daycare. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how, whoever has a different ideas, let me know. I mean, I don't take care of, we're still taking care of the grandchildren. She has a 1.5 years old, and she has the boy who is now learning Garifuna because he's 5. He is fluent in English and Spanish, which is his school. The demographic is, English,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of Latino children. So now he takes the Garifuna Picture Dictionary. He loves it. He knows a lot of vocabulary in Garifuna. But I want to be with them. I
Very
want to be more
nice.
consistent
Mm-hmm.
than I was with my daughter. Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm glad that you were able to share that, and I'm sure a lot of parents, especially here in the United States, can relate. They probably went through similar
Hmm.
experiences as you did in terms of passing the language, the Garifuna language down to their children. You know, and what advice would you give someone who might understand Garifuna, but don't speak it, or those who don't understand it at all, but want to learn the language?
Right. My advice is to start. Start with something. Garifuna is very popular now. There are quite a few books, and like Miss Miranda said yesterday, I was listening to the interview. Um, no, don't despair. Just be optimistic. And I say, like I said earlier, we still have elders that speak Garifuna, and that's a beautiful thing. But we must take advantage of their existence now to ask them questions, to learn from them, to respect their knowledge,
Mhm.
Get closer to them so they can, I would say to the youngsters, if you have a grandmother that speak Garifuna, get closer to your grandmother or get closer to your grandfather. If your mom speak Garifuna, get close to your mom. Ask them with respect, and learn and write down what Garifuna is, when you write it, it's phonetic, you know. Um, Pick up the books that are out there in Amazon. You have Ruben Reyes dictionary is in 3 languages. It'll give you translation. You have quite a few books. Uh, I would say by to get the dictionary for the from Roy Cayetano, you have to call Belize because it's not in Amazon. I
Mhm.
used to market it. I probably have, maybe if I have 3 left, that
Mhm.
will be it, and I'll have to take it out of my learngarifnanow.com because I haven't been able to get more
Mhm.
of the people's dictionary from Roy Cayetano. That's a really a good one. It's an excellent book to have. That book should last forever, like Raymond Breton here. That was Raymond Breton is in Amazon. It's called the Garifuna. Oh my! Here's Raymond Breton's. It's in French and Garifuna. If you can see it, take a picture of
Mhm.
it and then look at it. And then it's called Dictionnaire Français Caribe.
Mhm.
Right? So they called us Carib that because that's what they wanted to call us, but we know
Mhm.
that we are Garinago, and this is in
Mhm.
French. But when I look at the language, it's the same way, and this was published in 1666. It's
Wow.
amazing, right?
Mhm.
They wrote about our language. This one is really great. I love this book. Garifuna Mother Tongue and over 50 famous Garinago. So it's 500 over 500 words saying command and emotions. This
Mhm.
one is by Frank Palacio. If you can see this is going around a lot. A lot of people are using this book. I love it because it has words that we're forgetting that we like think
Mhm.
we don't, and
Mhm.
he just, I don't know how he remembers a lot of these words because he is amazing. And then sometimes I laugh when I look at certain words, like, oh my God, there was some, and he has pictures here of very known people. It's
Ah.
so great, very
Mhm.
beautiful, beautiful book for our youngsters to have. So I hope that people do not, people are, you know, um, people go to dinner and they spend $50 for a dinner they're gonna eat, and later. So when you buy a book, it's forever. So I would say invest in the books, read it, meet with family, and practice. Meet with family and practice. This book, which is my Learn Garifuna Now, um, is written in their characters. So you get a character,
Mhm. In
uh,
different contexts.
right,
Contexts.
in Garifuna,
Mhm.
take the Garifuna portion. They also have the Spanish portion. I thought about that because our youngsters in Belize, they don't speak Spanish, so they can learn Spanish here. And the youngsters in Honduras, they don't speak English, so the Spanish portion is there, and the Garifuna is the base. So
Mhm.
everybody learn Garifuna and learn the
Right.
Spanish, right? So this is an
Mhm.
opportunity also to learn a Spanish. But many people in Belize speak Spanish. It's just like it happens to my daughter. She knows the words, but she's not constantly speaking it, so she thinks she doesn't.
Mhm.
You'd be surprised that the moment you begin to speak more often, it becomes easier and easier for the tongue.
Yes.
Because I don't
Yeah.
speak it even every day, and I'm even surprised how I remember because I came here when I was 15, and I
Mhm.
don't speak it even every day. I teach, I'm in Boricua College. I'm an assistant professor at Boricua College. Everything is in English. It's, even though it's a Latino college, but everything is in English. So I do not get a chance to speak Garifuna all the time. My husband is from Belize, and he loves to speak English. He also loved to speak Garifuna, but he does. We don't realize when we switch to English, which is a bad thing. Like we start out in Garifuna and suddenly we're in English. So it's something to be conscious of. You're
Yes, yes.
speaking in Garifuna, stay with the Garifuna because I have a tendency. He does too. Suddenly, well, ya no hablo inglés. And as I say, you speak in the Queen's language. But you know? So
Mhm,
it might be the problem where that most people do. They would begin with Garifuna and we're not consistent. We have to be consistent with it. And words that we don't know in Garifuna, there's a lot of words now in Garifuna, like the phone, abahagoro, gagamoro. You know, because
mhm,
our ancestors didn't have those words. They didn't have a refrigerator. You know,
mhm, mhm, mhm,
lage dilitu,
mhm,
catebrita, you know, Mr.
mhm,
Um, Cayetano and then Ruben Reyes, they and Bodoma too. Bodoma knows a lot of Garifuna. They're working hard to create words that we didn't have so that we can have
mhm,
a words of that in Garifuna,
mhm,
which is so great. And I'm very appreciative of their input because there's so many words we didn't have before, you know, avion, carro, you know, all that stuff. So there's got to be something Garifuna with that. Yeah.
mhm. Okay, great.